Welcome back to High Top Sports. Happy SEC Championship Sunday to all of you. The matchup we've all been waiting for, 1 p.m. tip-off, the Florida Gators, the number 2 overall SEC seed versus the number 3 overall seed, the Tennessee Volunteers. We played them twice today, once in basketball and once in baseball. They've been doing their thing to us in baseball. But right now our main focus is this basketball tournament. It appears that Florida has locked in a number 1 seed with the win over Alabama, with the ass whooping over Alabama yesterday. We're going to talk about it today with our guy Mike, huge Tennessee fan. We've been talking all week. I had talked to him on Wednesday, I believe, and I said, hey, it appears Florida and Tennessee might come to a tipping point here, and if they do, you're down to come on the show. We'll talk about it. The little pregame. He was, yeah, absolutely. Here we are. I texted him last night, sent him the eyeball. As I said, it's showtime. It's happening. So without further ado, Michael Murray, ladies and gentlemen, Tennessee fan here, joining us today to talk about how Tennessee is just going to fall flat in their face against the Florida Gators like everybody else has. Right, Mike?
I don't know. I think we're going to shock the world, man. I think we're going to make a good case to have a good run setting up for this tournament coming up. We're looking good. Y'all are playing good. But I think you used too much gas in the tank to put up 104 last night. I think we still got something to prove.
Shock the world is. I don't want to say shock the world. This isn't like it's Vandy coming from the back end. You know what I mean? You guys are still a top tier team. It's 1-1. Both times we played each other, it was like nobody was even trying. So I love this matchup. I think I told you, and I even told the show. I said there's one team that scares me in this SEC tournament, and it's Tennessee. I just feel the matchup. The ability you guys have to shoot when you want to get hot, you guys can. You've got the size, and you've talked about it. We've talked about it all year long. It's the discipline. Sometimes when you guys get down on yourself, it could all fall apart, and that it has been Tennessee's struggle. But by golly, when they feel like they're invincible, they are invincible, and they were yesterday too.
Yeah, man, we're making our shots, and everything's firing on all cylinders. We're looking really good. And the games we played this year, it was very one-sided. The home team dominated both times. I think a neutral site game, even though it is in Nashville and it's probably going to favor Tennessee just as far as like who shows up crowd-wise, I still think it's going to be a good test for a neutral site to set up for how the tournament's going to go all through March.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about it all season long, and I've said it a couple times during this tournament. I go, man, it's crazy to think that an entire basketball season, the way that it's judged, the way that it's ranked, is all on home and away courts. And then you play the most important games of the entire year on completely neutral sites, elevated courts, what have you, not even close to home. Indy, Alabama, Nashville, like there's no kind of correlation of where you're playing. And it's kind of like, could you really get a true feel of what did you learn? Because basketball, in my opinion, home court advantage in basketball is massive. And so when you lose that, you can really ride on momentum that you're not going to have in the tournament. And we'll talk about, we were kind of before the show talking about these rankings and how Auburn has just been gifted a 1 seed after just falling flat on their face here. But let's talk before we get into our conspiracy theories. What is your key takeaways for Tennessee going into this game? What do they need to do correctly to take down this hot Gator team right now?
We got to come in defensively. We have to slow y'all's offense down. I mean, y'all been rolling hot. You've been winning games by 10, 20, 30 points whenever you played us, and we have to come in defensively. Like I said, we don't play well on the road. That was kind of more of a first half of the season problem for us. I think we come in, we can slow y'all's offensive down. I think we do match up well, and y'all play good defense as well, but y'all are shooting slightly better field goal percentage, averaging a little bit more assists per game, but the matchup's pretty solid as far as the numbers go. Our defense is giving up 6.7 less points, and y'all are averaging 10.7 more points. So it's going to come down to, can we play defense and stop y'all from scoring, and vice versa. If y'all can come in and slow us down, get us off rhythm, like I said earlier, I think that playing in Nashville is going to be more of a home advantage for Tennessee. It's usually like that in football when they travel to Vanderbilt at least. So I'm hoping that we can come in, play good in front of the home crowd. And if we don't win, that's fine. I think it's going to be a good game regardless. But obviously everybody's got their eyes on, making it to the Final Four and then the championship overall.
2 things I want to look at here. This is, I said before the show, this is the first time for both teams that anybody has played 3 days in a row. Strenuous games, to say the least. I mean, you're playing in the best conference in basketball right now. Florida played Mizzou, a team that beat them early on in the year, kind of bullied them a little bit. Then, of course, had Alabama yesterday. You guys had Texas, who was on a little bit of a burner. I got a little frisky. I had a 9-legger going, and for some reason, I don't know if it was your old-fashioned, a little stronger than normal, but I felt that Texas had an opportunity to get it done. I was 8 for 9 and in shambles, thinking Texas was going to do that thing at Tennessee. So big win for you guys there. Then, of course, Auburn, who everyone thinks is the greatest team since sliced bread. You guys handled that. So a lot of big-time games going into a third game at its tipping point. Going to be interesting to see how both teams handle that pressure and handle just the stamina going into this. And then what concerns me with Tennessee, I think we've done a great job of answering the big guy from the opposing team. Missouri beat us like that early in the year. They adjusted on that game on Friday. Alabama tried to do it. We were able to hold them off with our big guys. Where teams have struggled against us is shooting. They haven't shot the ball well from beyond the arc, and that's where Tennessee can get absolutely dangerous. And that's how Kentucky beat us early on in the year. They got absolutely hot. The kid Kobe, the second reckoning of Kobe, just got absolutely hot. I think he was like Kentucky Kid of the Year. And that's where, again, Tennessee has the ability to do that. And when you're in tournaments like this on the road, because of the crowd, and although like you said, you will have a slight home field advantage, it's not going to take much to get those guys behind you and to get that momentum in a home court advantage type atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. And back to Kentucky real quick, they gave us the same problem. I think that if we can get hot from the perimeter and we can shoot the threes, that's good. I think our issue is if y'all shoot a three, we try and answer with 3 points. And a layup, a defensive stop in the mid range is 4 to 3 if you want to score it like that. We can't chase the three. We got to play our game, and we got to size y'all up. We have to play big. We got to stop y'all from just scoring. It's going to be very interesting. I think the matchup's good, and it's going to be a good test for us going forward. I still think I think the lines are a little high, man. I think 4.5 up to 5.5 now in favor of y'all. I think that's high for a championship matchup. I could see this going 2 or 3 points either way. It comes down to the last possession or two in free throws. I like Tennessee money line. Obviously, if we're gonna put a 9-legger together, I definitely like Tennessee money line, and I'm feeling the over 43.5. I don't know. We've had issues before, but it was earlier in the season. Like I said, we were talking before the show. 4-8 in January, 10 to 12 cents, and I mean we split 1-1 this year with y'all, and then we're 3-4 on the road during that time of going 4-8. So I think being on the road is definitely our worst enemy this season. And even the games we won on the road, it was 2-3 points, especially against I think it was Texas early in the season. Obviously, we just beat them a couple days ago. I think we can come out and do good. It's going to be interesting. Sorry, I'm checking some of my notes real quick.
No, -5, I think, is like, and again, a championship game seems like a lot. We were talking about the basketball spreads. I mean, they're kind of weird. I think 2-3 probably more of a reasonable one. I think what they're looking at is that the bench of this Florida team has looked exceptional. They really stepped up and done their job to where the depth, to just how deep this bench goes. Florida, that's where they've been able to pull apart. You get into that second half, we're 29-0, I believe now, with the win of yesterday. When Florida leads at going into the half, they're undefeated. And again, they have all year seemed to be a second half team. So if Florida goes into the second half, that's what you kind of have to keep in mind, that just with their depth, they're able to keep fresh legs. And Walter Clayton, my God, he's Steph Curry of the tournament right now, playing out of his mind. You kind of live and die by him. He gets a little sloppy at times, but he has been shooting lights out. Will Richard has been a quiet, dominant force as well. Yesterday was quiet for the first half of the game, and then all of a sudden just exploded towards the end there. And the bigs, Micah coming back from injury, obviously he had that egregious injury last year in the SEC tournament. Hawk, my guy, has been doing great things. So everybody is playing at an elite level. Again, will 3 days of strenuous basketball play a factor? Like you said, they've been putting up a lot of points. It takes a lot of energy to put up a lot of points. Although we were kind of towards the I would say, deeper into the bench on that second half, or the back end of the game there. But yeah, 5.5, 5's a lot. I think what they're looking at, though, is probably going to be a little back and forth punching match. But what Florida has shown, and has consistently all year, that went ahead, they can kind of pull away at the end and just start shooting lights out. Their key component is to wear out that other team, and I think that's where Tennessee's got to be able to hang on with them.
Yeah, and like I said, the only way to slow us down is if you get us off rhythm, we start missing our shots. If we're firing on all cylinders and we're looking good, we're transitioning well, we're swinging the ball around. That's our game. If you get us out of that rhythm, that's where we've seen problems throughout the season. And y'all's defense is capable of doing it. It's just it's like you were saying earlier, 3 games in a row. We spent a lot of energy to get here. I mean, we neither one of us had an easy path to make it this far, and it's how much is left in the tank. How much do they want this? And then we got to get bench points. You know, a lot of our starting five are coming out there and scoring most of the points. We need to see more points off of the bench if we're going to win this thing, and then stop y'all from scoring points when it's bench versus bench. We can't just keep the starters out there the entire time. And then, I mean, Bama saw it the other day. Y'all came out smoking hot, out of the gate. It was 45, 47, I think, at half yesterday for y'all. And then, in the second half, y'all took it away. But your bench came out, answered, scored some points. Bama's offense just ran out of gas. And I just don't want to be stuck in that situation today.
Yeah, if you're getting in a tee off match with Florida, I think that's an answer for anybody. You guys got to get off hot and get away early because Florida has the firepower to catch back up and again wear you down. So if you are able to get out early, which is a lot of the key losses that Florida has lost, the opposing team got out early where Florida had to play catch up, and even though they would catch up, it was almost like that the opposing team still had some gas in the tank because they weren't having to play as hard throughout the entire game. Well, let's talk a little bit about our conspiracy here. Look, we were talking about pregame, and you kind of got me the wheels turning a little bit. Obviously, the hype behind Auburn has been ridiculous, and you'll ask some people their first half of schedule, out of conference schedule, was much harder than other people. But you and I were both talking. A lot of their key wins and big victories were early on in the season, rightfully so against out of conference ranked teams like the Iowa State. I think they played UConn, Duke, a few others that were big time opponents. They've lost 3 now. If you want to count Florida, 4 in the last month and a half. And we're not just talking kind of like lollygag games. They're against A&M, ranked team, right? I would say big time game for A&M to see where they're going to be in the tournament. Auburn, in a way, is fighting against Florida at the time for who's going to be the overall all seed. They play Florida at home, get beat by Florida. They lose to Alabama when Alabama is trying to fight for that 1 seed. So these big matchups, they've now dropped. But for some reason, there's no credibility to losing these games at the most pristine time headed into the tournament. In November, when nobody's watching, nobody cares, yeah, they won. There's no pressure to win. But when it starts to get, the pressure cookie starts to build up, then they start losing. But because they've got a whole full season of a great track record, we're going to just ignore it. It seems weird to me.
It does, and you can even go back to the week that y'all beat them. They were 1, and then the following week, they didn't even drop. Y'all moved up. They stayed number 1. I don't know whose pockets they're greasing. I don't know who they're fans of at ESPN over there, but they just didn't want to move Auburn out of that one spot the entire season. And to be fair, they did play well, and a lot of their wins are good quality wins, and the losses are even quality losses. They didn't look terrible. They lost to very good teams. But there's a lot of talent in the league this year, especially in the SEC. So to keep them at number 1, or to not even move them down, like I was saying, after Florida beat them, they lost to Bama. Tennessee just beat them. To automatically have them locked up in the number 1 spot when all these teams are just fighting for that number 1 and all in the same conference, you got to at least have the conversation more open than just assuming that they're going to be the 1. Duke dropped a couple spread out throughout the season. I don't know. They're not showing me right now that they should be number 1. At the beginning of the season, halfway through, they looked unbeatable. Now
Sure.
you're seeing some chinks in that armor. They're dropping some here and there. I could easily see them upset round 32, upset round of 16 in the major tournament. I don't think they're going to make that run that 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago everybody was thinking they were going to make this year.
You have to take these losses at the end here into consideration, and the fact that they're not, again, is asinine to me. Look, this Florida team has fought really hard. They've beaten. We're looking at that top half of the SEC schedule. And we were just talking too how some are arguing the SEC tournament doesn't mean anything, and again, that's how they're saying that very very loudly with the fact that regardless that Auburn just got beat by one of Tennessee's a 2 seed, right, and Florida is right there on that cusp of a 1 seed / 2 seed, but arguably I think right now if they win the SEC tournament, how can you not make them the overall number 1 seed? Maybe Duke could argue for them too, but going into this, they are very close. And again, it's been known, everyone can agree that the SEC is the best conference in basketball right now. And if you go win that conference, how are you going to not put any weight towards it when other conference champions are fighting to get into the tournament because that's how much value being the conference champion is. For these MAC conferences and AAC conference, you have to win those conferences to even get in the tournament. So those have a ton of weight. Yet the best conference in the league, you win it, it means absolutely nothing. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And you also have to look at the losses of both Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, Bama. All of these losses, it's the same issue that we had during football season this year. All these losses are coming from in-conference teams, very good teams, very quality teams. I know Tennessee lost 1 to Auburn, 2 to Kentucky, 1 to Florida. The Ole Miss loss that shouldn't have happened was still a loss, and I'm forgetting the other one right now. But all of these teams are March Madness contending teams. A lot of these teams are top 10 teams, especially at the time that we had those losses. So if you're gonna weigh in the wins with how good the conference is, you have to factor in. I mean, these losses are to good teams, and then Auburn losing all these games on the back half of the season, and still to good quality teams. These good quality teams are fighting for these number one spots. You have to at some point move them around. Florida has a very solid resume to make the argument of being the number one. I think that loss to Georgia late in the season kind of hurt y'all. Same thing with that Ole Miss loss from Tennessee. Bama having that loss to Tennessee at the end of the season right there too doesn't help them out. But you're not factoring in that Auburn is dropping these games at the end of the season. You're just keeping them number one. You're not moving them around at all. I just don't see the justification for it.
Yeah,
We'll see if they come out and do something, but
Georgia, Florida losing to that Georgia team, they put a ton of stock into that. When Florida dropped that game, it was like, Florida's no chance they would have one seed now. They need a hope and a prayer. And look, they played lights out since that game. I said it when it happened. I didn't like it because we were kind of on the bubble, but also it came at a key opponent where you can run after the fact. But yeah, Alabama dropped back-to-back games. They dropped to A&M on the road and then to Alabama at home at the end of the season, where, like you said, are those two teams not they're not as bad as Georgia, but Georgia's in the tournament alongside A&M, right? And again, that was on the road,
just like most other teams in the SEC.
Yeah, so yeah, they completely ignored those two losses. It was almost like they were already looking at the SEC tournament, and then they go into the SEC tournament and lose again. It's crazy. Look, the reason why, and I'm such a big component into this, because obviously, look, when you play this hard all season long, the reason why you bust your ass is to have a nice seed. You need a couple of toss-in games before you hit into that Sweet 16 to where it really starts ramping up. So, yeah, it is a big deal, especially for someone like a Tennessee. Like, Tennessee is making a claim to be a one seed. Like, if they were to win today, you got to look at them. How do you not? I mean, they just now won the conference championship of the best conference in basketball.
I see the argument. Even as a Tennessee fan, I think the issue is we dropped some games we shouldn't have dropped, especially late in the season. That one to Ole Miss. If we had won that game against Ole Miss and then beat Bama the way we did and made this run, I think there'd be a stronger argument for it. I'm not mad for it too. The way we've been playing on the road, I think the less pressure that comes on us, the better we perform. So I think having that added weight of being the number one might negatively impact us this season. And you can have almost as easy, if not an easier path sometimes, as a 2 seed getting, to the Elite Eight, the Final Four, and ultimately the championship. So I'm not mad at the two. I can live with that. And I think that this game today is going to be a good kind of middle of the ground. It's a semi-home game. It's not going to be like we're playing in Knoxville. Still going to have a overrepresentation of fans there. And then all these neutral site games going forward, I think it's going to be a nice transition period and get us set up for a nice run in the tournament.
Again, I agree with you. It's not that you guys are not sweating, the 2 seed at all. And again, if Duke goes and wins the ACC championship, how are they not an overall 1 seed? Because right now, I've got Joe Lunardi, his Bristol Bunker Sunday from an hour ago. Here's what the bracket math is, right? His bullet points. Realistically, we're down to 3 teams: Indiana, Xavier, and Boise State for 2 spots. Below them, Texas has too many losses, and North Carolina doesn't have enough good wins, meaning I believe those 2 teams are out, because first 4 out are Boise State, Texas, North Carolina, and Ohio State. Just crazy to think that Ohio State and North Carolina are not going to be in this tournament. Those are two big blue bloods for basketball. And I said this going back to last year, that the NIL, in my opinion, has impacted basketball in the way that we all thought it would impact football, where it's kind of neutralized a lot of these teams. Now, I think you're still getting some guys that are moving all around, but it's allowed for it to be a very even, keen feel. That's why I think the SEC is doing what it's doing now. Maybe the bigger conferences are able to elevate their lower-end teams, so we won't have like a strong VCU or whatnot. But I think it's definitely leveled it out, where you've got a team like Maryland and a team like Michigan and Michigan State, which those guys are blue bloods, but knocking out Ohio State. Lost by Memphis for sure, and or VCU should be sure. Could reduce open spots to 1 or 0. Personally, I would take Boise State over either Indiana or Xavier. Now, this is Joe Lunardi, so he's trying to assume what the committee will do. We are also putting a lot of stock into Joe's bracketology. Maybe the committee looks at this a whole lot differently than what Joe is doing, right? That's something to kind of keep in mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, we won't know till tonight, and obviously we got to see how these championship games play out. Because, like you were saying, a lot of other conferences they carry a little bit more weight, especially when you're fighting for, first four in, last four out kind of thing or whatever. Um, it's and the NIL, to touch on that again real quick. I think in basketball you can throw a lot of money at one or two players and change, what goes on the court. The issue in football is you need to, pay a lot more guys and spread the talent a little bit around. You have, one 5-star ESPN top 100, whoever coming to a team, he still needs other guys around him to perform and do well. You put one stud player on a basketball team, especially some of these lower teams, you give him all the touches, you give him all the minutes, he can carry that team to some wins and at least squeak into a big tournament or make a run late in the season. So I think that the NIL is better suited for basketball, might be a better way to put it, because a little bit of money goes a lot farther when you have less people on the roster like that.
Good point. Good point. Other thoughts, he says that Auburn could legitimately drop. This is what he's saying here. This is an hour ago. Could be legitimately dropped from the number one overall, but I highly doubt it. Now, I would believe that Duke would take that if they were to win. Look, if Duke and Florida both win dominantly today, it's got to be talked about. It has to be looked at. Tennessee could surpass Florida for the last one seed. Here we go. But I mostly doubt the committee will do so. That's a massive one. That's the fact that Florida, and again, I said it, but the fact that Florida that has 4 more wins, I believe, than Tennessee could be surpassed what they lost today. But Auburn's hanging on to number one overall seed, not even playing today. Florida just zero respect for the Golden Boys.
I don't think it's quite 4. I think it's 2 or 3 off the top of my head. I'm not 100%. Actually, it's
You guys are 20. You guys 8 losses.
27-6, and y'all are 29-4. So yeah, just a 2-game difference
2 games
between Tennessee and Florida.
Not as aggressive as I thought.
Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty close. And but once again, you have Bama right there also at 25-8. You have Auburn at 28-5. So y'all actually have one more win than Auburn already. Conference, you have one more loss though. So that might be the difference right there.
Bama was 4 away.
Lost
That's why I was
yesterday,
thinking 8 losses. Why are you that?
That's right.
They were looking at Bama more favorably than Tennessee. That's why I thought that you guys were the 8-loss team.
It's that the Ole Miss loss was at the worst time. It was coming off of that 3-point buzzer beater right there against Alabama, and then we followed it up with a 2-point loss to Ole Miss. In the last 2 or 3 seconds also. So
that's right.
We shouldn't have dropped that one. It would be Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, and then Alabama under us if we hadn't dropped that game. Then I could see more of the argument. But us being all the way down at 8th rank right now, it would be we'd have to put up 105 today, I think, to have the conversation to bump us up to 4 and get us a 1 seed.
That's right.
I could see the argument for y'all jumping Auburn if you beat us, even though I don't think that's likely. I still think that it would be very hard to make the case to bump us up 4 or 5 spots and get us into that 1 seed conversation.
I remember when Tennessee, because we beat Alabama that Wednesday night, and you guys lost to Ole Miss. Like all of a sudden now, because at that time Florida wasn't even close to considered a 1 seed, and then that changed a lot of things. So right now, what he has is Auburn and Florida at 2 1 seeds. Florida being the 4th overall 1 seed. For 2 seeds, you got Michigan State, St. John's, Alabama, and Tennessee. But Tennessee is being looked at as the highest 2nd seed. So that's why they're looking at Florida and Tennessee being kind of, you guys are the 5th, Alabama is the 6th. The 3 seeds is Kentucky, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Wisconsin, and the 4 seeds are Arizona, Michigan, Maryland, and A&M. So by golly, the SEC just doing big things. And right now it looks like 13 SEC teams will be making it. Again, with Texas being that first 4 out, it looks like I don't know what needs to happen for them to get in. I think they were going to be the 14 team to get in. But Arkansas, John
they need
Calipari
to beat us
team.
and go on a run. They got hot at the end right there, though. Texas was playing good ball at the end. They just they couldn't get past us. If they had gotten past us, I think they definitely would have made it in.
No question. Arkansas, that Calipari team, that's gonna be fun to watch. This Kentucky team has the ability to get hot. I think they could be an upset, a team to watch for an upset. That's my hot take. And A&M is another one that has the ability to they played well the last few years in the tournament. So it's going to be fun putting the bracket together. We'll have Selection Sunday tonight. I think we might be doing a show for that. But ladies and gents, fantastic show here with our guy Mike, representing the Tennessee Vols. It should be a go, man. Final score prediction before we close her down, man.
I think the slight home court advantage is going to help Tennessee out more than people are giving it credit for. I think it's going to be a good close game. I can see it being tied at halftime. My final numbers, I'm going to say Tennessee wins 76-71. Parlay money line with the over 144 or 143.5, whatever your bookie has it at.
I love it. breaking out the deets. We got Caleb Yax as this Tennessee guy is actually pretty cool. Listen, they're rare boys, but they're out there. Okay, they're out there. Shout out to Mike Murray for joining us today to talk on all things Florida Tennessee basketball. Should be a great one. You know what I got, boys. Gators by a million, 183 strong. Smash the like button. 20 minutes till tip off. You already know what we're gonna do. We had a fantastic live stream. Cody, the professor, and I going absolutely berserk. He had to hit the inhaler. No joke, twice because he ran out of gas. So we'll be there today at 1 p.m. getting buck nasty with it. Y'all be good. Enjoy your Sunday. Selection Sunday is later on tonight. And then, of course, we have the March Madness high top bracket. Winner gets some cheddar for getting it done. Y'all be good. Peace and love, baby.
Thanks for having me on, man.